Welcome to Empowering Chats with Susan Burrell. This is where we have deep, intimate conversations about self-empowerment and future existence. I am an intuitive healer and a light leader who has been called to activate other light leaders. So I'm curious, are you one of them? So by listening, lean in and see if you are ready to be that eternal potential you've been called to be. Using your bravery, your talent, your tenacity, can you be innovative and adventurous in order to activate your light and lead from that place? This is where we learn how to love ourselves from the inside out and love the whole world over and over again. Enjoy the show. Hey, everybody. As we're closing out 2024, my team and I have been discussing what 2025 is going to be about. And we've come up with the theme of soul growth for 2025. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up now, even though we're still in December of 24, is because we thought it would be really wonderful to share with you a replay of a show I recorded in 2021 with Jason Morgan, who is a veteran, and he was injured in the line of duty and came home as a paraplegic. And through the course of his story, you'll hear how he handled that. But it is definitely one for the books, you guys. This man is such a stellar inspiration. And talk about soul growth, just to keep on keeping on, because he had 3 boys to raise when he got home. Take a listen. I think you'll be inspired to see how you want your soul to grow in 2025. Enjoy the show. The next guest that's going to be on today, his name is Jason Morgan, and he has the most amazing heart I've met. He has an incredible story I want you all to listen to. And he has a really big ask of where you could give during the month of December, the month of giving. So I invite you to sit back and listen to Jason's story and see if you can find it in your heart to give just a little bit more this year. In the meantime, be love. Oh, I'm going to read something from my book. That's going to be the end of this piece. Here we go. This is affirmations that I wrote in work that are in the book. So I'm going to read you 2. The first one, today I stand on the edge of my life and I realize I am surrounded and filled with a divine, loving energy that supports me in all I am and all I do. That's a good one. And then to close, I took my finger out of the book, everybody. Sorry. With each breath, I expand my heart. With my inner eyes, I see that I am love, overflowing and renewing love. I radiate love everywhere I am. I am met with love. I am love overflowing. Enjoy the show. So today, everyone, I have the most amazing man who we've already connected before I hit record. But this individual has an astounding story to talk about and share with us. And he's also an author of a book. But I think his story is going to really move you. And hopefully it might move you to action as well, which we'll talk about a little later in our conversation. So the book is called A Dog Called Hope. And I want to welcome Jason Morgan. Jason, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So I'm just going to tell how I came across you. My close friend and graphic artist and the person that makes my whole website and everything, Susan Burrell, beautiful, had read your book. a dog called Hope. And she was telling me about it, and we both looked at each other and we said, "Oh my God, we've got to have you on Empowering Chats because your story is so incredible." So, Jason, would you share with everybody a bit about your story first?
Sure. Just it starts off with me basically starting in the military when I was 20 years old, and it's something that I've always wanted to serve. I was actually in college in a golf scholarship, and just kind of lost my game, lost my ride, and just really was trying to figure out what was going on. And I was wanted to be in the Air Force. Is something always in the back of my mind. I thought no better time than now, and went into the military and became part of it took several years, but went a part of a very elite group, the Gray Berets, which is a combat weatherman. And so our job was to provide weather operations for special operations, and which weather is, as you know, very crucial, especially if you have, people jumping, people in the water, waves. You have current data if we're swimming in, if we're jumping, aircraft, and all different types of weather. So we would brief the commander on weather and try to use weather as an asset. But we would also train just as the special forces guys, the Green Berets that I worked with. Even though I was Air Force, I worked for the Army. And 10 years into it, in 1999, I was on a mission in South America, and we were combating the FARC, which FARC, which is like a drug terrorist group over there. And they operate in the drug trade. That's how they get a lot of their money. So we were over there trying to, and they've kidnapped a lot of American and British like engineers and oil workers too. So it's kind of like Al Qaeda except in South America.
South America, yeah.
Right. And so we were training the Ecuadorian and Colombian special forces how to combat against them. So we went with them. I was with I think SEAL Team 4 and some other 7 special forces groups, a bunch of special operation assets. And we were down there for 30 days. We felt like we did what we were supposed to do, except one of our helicopters broke down. And it's 8-hour drive to go to the capital, Quito, where they could fly in a part or ship in a part so we could go home. And they asked for 2 volunteers to provide security for our driver, and me and my buddy both volunteered. And it was on that journey, we were like in an SUV, regular SUV. We rarely ever wore like a military uniform except when we were, piloting in the air, but I never had like military vehicles or anything. So we're in a regular SUV, but they tried to ambush us from behind. So as I was hanging out of the window trying to disable the vehicle behind me in the car, our driver was still driving really fast, and we thought we did our job. We didn't see him come around the next corner. We were in the Andes Mountains, so it was very kind of treacherous, rough drive. And the driver just didn't make the next corner. He lost control, and he just went like over a ravine, and the vehicle just started flipping, rolling. And because I was halfway out with my vehicle, I'd flipped out of the vehicle. Then the vehicle rolled over me and crushed my back. And then it kept on. And so not only I was have a broken back, but I was face down in the water, broken back, unable to move, unable to breathe. Every time I took a breath, I just ingested this like stagnant, dirty water. And I was very fortunate. An American missionary that was in Ecuador at the time, he worked in Ecuador. And he was checking on one of his tennis sites because they have a Christian radio station. He saw the skid marks and stopped. And him and his coworkers got out, and they decided to go down and go down to the vehicle. And as he did, he said the only way he found me is he was trying to find that safest way to skirt down there. He stepped on me because I was smashed down in the water and covered in mud. That's the only way he found me. Pulled me out.
Oh my God, Jason, that sounds like God was guiding him.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean,
wow.
They never would have found me, at least not in time, because I think I'd been in the water for at least 5 minutes under the water. So, very fortunate. We were up at altitude, like it's 14 to 15,000 feet. So it was a lot cooler. I was wearing shorts because we left the Amazons. It was like 95 degrees and 100% humidity, but going up the mountains, it was like barely above freezing. So I think that really slowed down my vitals too. And anyway, so they got us all up to the vehicle, and they tried to call. The cell phones didn't work, but because he had the shortwave radio, it was a contact to the embassy, American embassy, which because it was a black op, they didn't even know we were there. And called them and told them we need to get these guys to a hospital because we couldn't go just to any hospital. Obviously,
Right.
we need to be protected. And they told us which hospital to take, and they were sending an ambulance to come get us. And they said it'd be about 3 hours for the ambulance got to us. And the guy that saved my life, Steve Sutherland, Steve said, this guy talking about me, he's like, this guy didn't have 3 hours. He's gasping for every breath. I don't think he'll make it. So he decided to take the seats out of his minivan, and he loaded me and the other two guys in there. I was the one that was most critical, and decided to meet the ambulance halfway. And as soon as we met the ambulance, I stopped breathing. They had to actually insert a chest tube to reinflate my lungs. So there was so many close calls. We call it the miracle on Ialo because it was on Ialo Mountain. With so many things that had to happen for me to be here today. And, just getting me back to the U.S. was tough because all the medevacs have like U.S. Air Force, U.S. Army on the side of it. And since we weren't supposed to be there, they had to find a non-military jet and medevac it out. And I think it went all the way up to the chief of staff of the Army had a secure jet for security reasons. It was had no markings on it. And they medevaced it out, and they got me back within U.S. like within 48 hours, which is,
Oh my God, that's spectacular.
it is. And then, I woke up about 2 months later from a coma saying that you're lucky to be alive, but you'll never walk again. So that was like the start of my new life.
Talk about a rude awakening.
I know. And, I felt like that I worked so hard to get to the job I was at. There's only 72 people in the Air Force that have my job. And it's pretty elite. So to go to something you've always wanted to climb, you achieve that pinnacle, and then now you fall down, but you fall down much lower than you were. Instead of my goals of making a unit like this, my goals were to roll over from side to side myself, or to be able to get into a wheelchair and maneuver it. So it just learn how to dress again, learn how to do everything again, and it just it was a struggle. I won't lie, it was tough, but I do believe that all that training I had before helped me train me for my next, I call it my next life,
Right. Absolutely. And it's amazing how circumstances, and especially traumatic ones, you're at a choice point during those, when you come into a traumatic experience. I believe this to be so, that you're always at a choice point. Do I live or do I die? I mean, you were in an elite thing where you were always at the choice point anyway. Do I live or do I die? Right. So that you could do your job well. But to come out into that experience, this new life, do you find that that's a choice point still of, am I gonna stay here, or am I just gonna move on?
Yeah, I think so. And I don't really remember. I remember a few things when a lot of the coma was induced because I had so many injuries. I had to find a way to heal my body. But yeah, I think it was. I just, like when I was in the hospital, I was like tied down to this bed because it moved back and forth to keep me from getting pressure sores. And I kept thinking I got captured by the Colombians, and I always was trying to escape. So it's like I was always trying to free myself,
Right, right.
I think the hospital staff got irritated with me a few times because I would make up, like, get me out of here. I tell them, like, unhook all this stuff and let me go out the side of the hospital, out the window, which was no windows, but I thought there was one. And I'll hook up everything once I get outside. And it was crazy. Even, and there's so much that happened in that 2 months I was in the hospital in their critical time. And Damian Lewis, the guy that I guess really wrote the book, did an amazing job of getting the facts from my parents, who my mom took notes, and I didn't really think about all this, but when I read the book for the first time, I read that part that I didn't know, like I started bawling, like I had no idea what my parents went to, and I was day to day for over a month. And in fact, even one such incident, I'll just go through one real quick. There's so many, and I have to read the book to get them all. That I have a twin sister, and they said tomorrow we're going to try to do surgery on Jason. So go home early. It's going to be a long day. We think he's finally ready for surgery. They're going to stabilize my back and put the titanium rods and stuff in and see the extent of my injuries. So my parents left, and they went downstairs and to eat. And after they ate, as they were leaving, my sister said to my dad, like, "Dad, you need to go check on Jason." Dad's like, "No, he's fine. You know what the doctor said? He's in ICU. He's got everyone around him." And she just felt really strongly about this. And finally, after arguing a little bit, she's like, "Dad, if you don't go, I will." So my dad goes like, "All right, I'll be right back." And my dad went upstairs and he looked at my monitors. I was actually in cardiac arrest.
Oh my God.
Someone actually muted the monitors, so no one knew. Someone came in with the motorcycle crash. It was in bad shape, and they're busy, working on him. So no one even knew I was going through this until my dad went up there and kind of yelled at everyone. Like, I think it took around 7 hours to finally stabilize me. I think I rested like 3 times, once during that time, but 3 times the total time between my accident and today. So
You know what? I just have to say, I've said it. God bless you, Jason. That's talk about thriving, wanting to be here 3 times. I mean, with everything you've gone through, and I know that there's more than up until this point of where you are in your story. I God bless you for really wanting to be here and then becoming present. Your mission is bigger than what most people could even imagine.
yeah, and it started off right when I remember when I woke up from my coma. I don't remember all the words, but I remember when the doctor said, you'll never walk again. And I remember everyone in the room, because my parents knew, but they never told me. And I somehow thought that this surgery I was going to have was going to fix everything, because I was in and out and in and out. And I noticed, and I don't remember saying this. This is in the book, but my parents said, they told me I said this, and noticed everyone was like really sad because they knew that was the first time that I found out that I was going to be never walking and paralyzed from the waist down. And I said, hey, don't you worry about me. I'm going to use this to help other people. And I think that's been my mission. And I didn't learn about that until about 5 years ago. And I was like, wow, it's like it's like I knew I had that mission right from the beginning.
Yeah.
When I got hurt, there was no Wounded Warrior Project or any of those missions that help veterans. None of those existed. It was pre 9/11. So there was a lot of us out there that was just kind of let out to dry. And I never want to say anything about the military, because I love our country and I love our military and I love the guys that I fought for. But at the time, they put me on temporary disability. And a couple of years later, I thought 5 years. And I thought, well, in 5 years, I'm going to rehab. I'm going to start walking again. I'm going to get my job back. And that was kind of giving me my hope. And about 6 months after I got out of the hospital, I got a letter saying, now we've changed it to permanent retirement. Not even thank you for your service, whatever, no medals. Not that I do anything for medals, but it was just kind of, that was the way they did things in. And thank goodness they don't do it now. But
Yeah,
that was
thank
one of the
God.
saddest days of my life. I mean,
I bet.
I cry when that's all I knew
Right.
was the military, and I think that was what was giving me hope to rehabilitate myself, and and then, I spent 3.5 years in the hospital out of my first 7 years, from pressure sores and different wounds and stuff like that. And the last time I was in for like 11 months, and I was excited to get home, and my kids were very young. They were 1, 3, and 4 when I got hurt. This is a few years later. I was excited to come home. I'm like, well, at least I'm going to be a father. I'm not going to be in the military again, but I could start being a father and a husband. And then I found out that my wife said that she's not going to be there when I got there.
Oh God.
Yeah, so she left me and the 3 boys. But in a way, it was a good thing, because that's what gave me purpose. And we all need purpose, right?
Yeah.
And that's what started really started me pushing myself, was that I need to be there for my boys, because they're all I have,
Right.
So.
Right. And so I'm just gonna love on you a bit, Jason.
That's right.
You sound like the kind of human being, and there's many of people like you that commit 100% to whatever it is that they're doing. Like, you committed 100% to your military career, and then 100% to rehabbing to the best of your ability, and then 100% to being a father for your 3 boys. And that going I don't know if the military taught you to do that, but I think there's some sort of deeper, is my belief. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think in all of us, when we're faced with a trauma, and you were just knocked around several times, not just one little trauma or big trauma, but several. And to find that inner strength, constantly going to that well within where there is strength, where there is courage, or where there's hope, that, like you talk about, that is daunting for some people to do. And you're modeling how you do that.
Yeah, and it wasn't always that way, and a couple of times it's got me in trouble too, but in a good way. But I mean, at first when I was like in the hospital for 11 months, and when I woke up, I had like severe nerve pain, and it's better now, but after numerous surgeries and everything else. And I remember all I did was like look at my clock and wait for 4 hours to come so I could get my next dose of pain medicine. And I'm like, that is no way to live. There's got to be
way to live.
was really the biggest turning point, and I just kind of recalled this, is that while I was in rehab, I went from about 100, I'm 6 foot, and I went from like 185, 90 pounds to 129 when I got out of the hospital.
Holy,
Skin and bones. I sure don't weigh that now, but I was kind of depressed. I couldn't do much of my rehab because my pain was so bad, and I was really struggling. And this guy wheeled in there, and I was thinking, what kind of life can I have from a wheelchair? I've never known anyone except an elderly person in a chair that someone's being pushed around. So I never knew about someone, being young. Sorry, hang on. I didn't really know how active you could be.
right.
Here. So this guy wheeled in, and was like, what a cool chair. It was like this titanium chair, and nothing like I've ever seen before. And he rolled in and he started talking to me. He's like, he's on the basketball team, wheelchair basketball team and stuff. And he's like, when you get better, I'd love for you to join us and start practicing with us. And, you meet a lot of cool people. And I saw that. And when he left, he like did a wheelie and did like a 180 because the space was really tight. And yeah, that one was like, holy cow, like I can't have a life from a chair. And I wish I remember that guy's name, and it's in the book. I hope he reads it one day so he knows, because that guy, the 5 minutes that he gave me, he has no idea how much he turned my life around. And I try to remember that. Like, you never know the difference you can make in someone's life. Just to use.
You never know. It's just so important to show up and be present with people like heroes.
Listen, to care. Exactly.
Right.
To show up. You're right.
Right.
But yeah, that's what really, pushed me going to where I'm at now. So
let's talk about your book a bit now, because,
okay.
I got chills, Jason. Just, so let's talk about A Dog Called Hope.
Okay.
So this is a whole companion program. Were you one of the first guys to get involved, or how does it happen that you get involved, and just explain the companion
Sure.
program.
So I was actually learning how to fly again. I was in an air show. We flew kids with disabilities and taught them how to fly. They get to hold the stick for a minute, and it got kind of scary a few times, but
I have an uncle and a cousin who fly all the time. So
yeah, but it's neat for the kids. If they're mentally and physically disabled, it's like they get a lot of
empowerment.
Yeah, flying a plane. It's like, wow, if I could do this, no telling what else I could do. And so I've only seen a few dogs, and dogs were not popular back then as service dogs as they are now. You got a lot of the fake service dogs. I'll just put it out there, but yeah. And Canine Companions had a booth there, and so someone walked their dog up there, and they said, "Hey, we have a booth over here. Would you be interested in service dog?" And I'm like, "Well, there's no way. I mean, I raised 3 boys on my own. I don't feel like I'm disabled enough to have a dog." And they said, "No, I think you would qualify." And I've always loved dogs, so I went over there and saw these amazing dogs. Canine Companions has been around for 40 years, so they're the longest. It was only 20 years, I guess, when I found out about them, or 30 years, I guess. And found out about these incredible things these dogs can do. I mean, they could turn light switches on and off. They can like get your clothes out of the dryer. Might not learn how to fold them yet, but we're working on that. But they can open and close doors, get a drink up for me. Like, once I'm out of my chair, it's so nice. I can tell my dog to get, like, if I don't have the remote handy, like, get the remote. He knows where it is, and he'll grab the TV remote and give it to me. Otherwise, I have to transfer back into my wheelchair, roll to where the remote is, and then come back and transfer back into the lazy boy or whatever I'm in. And, when I drop stuff, to get my keys and so forth, and And I just couldn't believe all these things these dogs could do and how much it could help. But really, for me, it was more my bridge back to society, because like when I'd go into a grocery store or something, people saw me in that chair and it's almost like they just kind of ignored me. And not to be rude or anything, I think they just didn't know. No, ignorance. And I remember the first time I brought my dog into a store, I felt like everyone in the store came up to me. It's like, who's this dog that's like pulling you down the aisle and picking out his own dog toys in the dog toy aisle? And but it was amazing, and it just really brought me back to. It was like my bridge back to society. It was really incredible, both mentally and physically, what these dogs can do, and it just gave me more confidence.
Right.
More independence, obviously.
But they are the dogs already trained
They are.
before you get, okay.
Yeah, so these dogs are trained for 2 years, and so you go into a class when you have to qualify for it, and you have to meet the requirements, because it takes about $50,000 to train these dogs all the way through. So you're just not going to give it to anybody. You want to make sure that you're financially secure, that you can take care of the dog, and that you have proper places to handle the dog. It can use the restroom and different things, and then they want to make sure that your disability qualifies for a dog, that you could really use one of their dogs. And it's a really neat process, because you write essays and they learn a lot about you and your personality and things that you do. So they have a good idea of what kind of dogs you're going to work with when I get there. So like when I went to my class, it was like 10 other people, and there was about 15 dogs. And so I worked with like 3 dogs, and I was there for 2 weeks because we had to learn everything the dogs would do. They had to train us this time,
Right.
and like 50 commands. It takes a while to learn and different things. So going up there, I worked with like 3 or 4 dogs, and then after the third day, they matched the dog that worked best with me. And then I stayed with that dog all the way through, unless there was issues, and that's the way it works. It's a really great program.
And were most of the people that came, the other people applying for a dog, were they all wheelchair bound as well?
No, there was some guys with prosthetics. There was a lot of kids with autism there. And with that, the parents come with them. The parents are the main keeper of the dog, but it's amazing what they do for these kids too, with mental disabilities. But
yes,
we're pretty much all rounded out. There was, I think there's only 2 of us in chairs, but the rest of them had some sort of disability where the dog could really help them out.
Okay, so what was the adjustment like when you brought? And the name of your first dog was Napal.
Oh, yes.
So when you brought Napal along, there must have been an adjustment with your boys and everything.
There was, and so we had to learn the different rules. When he has his vest on, he's working, that don't distract him, which you try to get people in public to learn that too, but it doesn't always work. But when he was home, his vest was off, and he was a pet, and he was a great pet. And my oldest son has Asperger's, so the bond that they have, I walked to school with them with my dog, and I know that when they knew that they were going to come, they rode the bus home, but when they came on with the bus, they knew that Napal, he knew about the time, and he'd be sitting by the door waiting for Blake to get home. And because Blake fed him too. It's that really awesome bond. But it was a little tough, because I wasn't used to getting so much attention. I mean, when you have a dog and there's not, especially then, there wasn't many dogs around, and you have this like amazing dog, everyone wants to know about it. And it was good in most ways. You never could like say, I'm going to go in the store real quick to get a gallon of milk, because that just didn't happen. But yeah, but it was an adjustment. But it was, and also teaching the dog your lifestyle. Like, I know that when I go to a certain door that I can't shut it behind me because of my chair, that he goes back and pushes it shut. And you do stuff like, they kind of learn your lifestyle and stuff, and you kind of integrate them into your livelihood, into your lifestyle. It's quite amazing to see these dogs working. I know I had to give my dog commands most of the time. I was in my room the other day, and I dropped something, and he heard it, and he ran in there and saw it, grabbed it, and picked it up for me. I mean, that's just, yeah. I'll have to bring him in here a minute and introduce him. He could to the next room, but I can hear him snort a bit. But
I have I'm looking over here. I have a Sheltie, and dogs are so smart and intuitive. They what, at least my dogs have always been that way. My previous dog was my prayer dog, and when I would have clients come over, he would welcome them. He would look them in the eye. He would sit next to them if they were having emotional trauma. And then he'd go away for a while. And then at the end of a session, I always do a healing prayer. And he would always come in for the prayer. It's like he was there to support everybody.
Yeah.
And they're so smart and intuitive, and once they connect with you, then they are, I think they're just more than a companion. They're just like your best friend.
They are, because, I'm with my dog 24/7. I'm with him more than anyone in my life. And like when I had pain, he'll just come up and put his head like on my like on my leg, on my wheelchair. Like he knows. And he has a way of, like, sometimes I get frustrated because there was times in the beginning in 2010 when I first got him, 2011, that there weren't many dogs around. And a lot of times we were told we couldn't be in here because no dogs are allowed. And it's not so much that way now. I think the public's made definitely more aware of it, but I get frustrated a lot of times, and it's kind of like, come on, buddy, calm down. I call him my battle buddy,
Well, yeah. Makes sense. He's helping you get through the battle of life.
He is. Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk about these organizations that you're involved with, Jason, because I saw on the book, at the back of the book, there's one called Operation Renewed Strength.
Yes.
And that's a nonprofit.
Yes, that's one that I started up. And where that came from is that when I was in my coma, or they're trying to bring me out, I wasn't responding properly. And they thought, because the amount of time that I spent in the water, that I had brain damage.
Oh.
And so I had, my brother asked me, he said, Jason, what's your favorite verse? And and I don't remember this. I was told this later. And I quoted this verse. It's Isaiah 40:31 that says, for those who hope in the Lord renew their strength.
Mm-hmm.
They will soar on wings like eagles. They will walk and not be weary. They will run and not be faint. And so I talked about, like, renewing your strength. That's how I got Operation Renewed Strength, from that verse. And that's when they knew that I was okay, that at least my mind was good and not damaged. So that's where I got it from. And I'm just really starting to get it going, but it's really about helping. I just feel like I have a lot to offer. I've been in a chair for 20 years, and I'm still learning stuff. And, like I water ski, I snow ski, play tennis. I've competed in the wheelchair games, and I've even skydived again. I've done a lot of stuff that a lot of people in chairs don't think they can do. And and it's not just the sports. That's kind of was my rehab. But I just think when you get these like families together, that they can really learn from each other. So, to be able to do retreats with them. And, like, because my boys, they've never met another kid whose dad is in a chair.
Yeah.
That'd be great if we did.
Right. Yeah.
Compare notes and talk to each other about it. I think it would have been
Right.
really good. So that's kind of and it's also to let them know what's out there about Canine Companions and different organizations that help you and that could really further your life,
So part of it is to create retreats for families to get together and get to know people that are in this similar experience,
Right.
and then support each other, renew and support each other.
Right.
Okay.
The other part is just to for them to gain knowledge about what's out there for them, because I was hurt for 10 years before I found out I could get a service dog, things like that. And physical fitness, how important that is, because they're like, well, how do you get out of the pool? I'm like, well, I can use my arms. How do you get to this place? It's all about using strength and working out and staying fit, because in a chair, you have to be fit to do a lot of things that you could easily do if you weren't.
Right.
So, getting out of your chair is just a chore in itself.
Right.
So I haven't done any retreats yet. That's my next stage, and that's what we're planning on doing. So.
Oh my God, how fabulous. I would love to hear when you're doing that. I'll put it in our newsletter when we start doing newsletters in the new year.
Great. Well, thanks. So I'm trying to, we got a couple of movie offers, so we're working on the book. So
I heard that. I heard that when I was looking at the book this morning. I was like, oh, he's got a movie offer. Wow. Which you should.
Yeah, it's, so we have the writer, the screenwriter that read the book and absolutely fell in love with it. It's the same screenwriter for the movie Rain Man.
Oh my God, how perfect.
Yeah, so nothing's been finalized yet, but we went up to, invited me up. We went up to Beverly Hills and talked to all the studios and stuff. And a lot of people were interested, but then right after was when COVID hit. So things kind of shut down. So hopefully it'll get there.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt, Jason. It's already done. I heard it. It's already done. I have no doubt.
And mine is a success story. It's not like, woe is me, I have PTSD and I can't cope. And, and it's about overcoming those obstacles and having a successful life. It's even from a chair.
Yeah. Yeah. And all the trauma, the many steps of trauma that you've walked through and now wheeled through that,
Yeah.
it's fabulous. So operationrenewedstrength.org.
Yes.
Okay. And then let's talk a minute about the Canine Companion. Is it Canine Companion for Independence?
Not anymore. Yes. They changed it. They rebranded it. It's Canine Companions.
Okay. So just simple, much easier.
Yes, it is.
Much easier.
It is.
I had a friend a few years ago who was going blind, and her doctor thought it would be important for her to get a seeing eye dog. And what you described is what she had to go through, learning how to deal with the dog and teach the dog. And basically the dog taught her. And,
Right.
and it was when she came back into our community, she was like, it was a girl. You don't get to know her name because when she has her vest on, she's working and you can't touch her, because she has to be here for me.
Oh, especially if you're visually impaired, because you could step out into a street or go into a ditch or trip there's so many different things that dog has to be alert 100% of the time.
And not distracted.
Right.
And the sweetest dog, but yeah.
I bet.
So Canine Companions. So under Operation Renewed Strength, you're going to have other listings for people to resource, like Canine Companions.
Right. Yeah, that's something that we're just building on now. I just want to get everything ready if the movie comes out, because we'll obviously have the publicity and everything else, and I think I could use that publicity to really make a lot of difference in other veterans' life. And it's not. I think at first I said I was going to do it for veterans only, but I think I do it for anyone with disabilities. So just like Canine Companions, they have their military initiative program for the veterans, but they have their other side of it too that helps everyone that has a disability. So
yeah. Hold on, because there was another, as you were saying that, another question floated in. Wounded warriors. So our wounded warriors, you said earlier in our discussion, wasn't around when you were wounded.
No.
And now I know, because I know they advertise on television all the time, especially around the holidays, so people can donate and support. Is Wounded Warriors also going to be under your umbrella?
Absolutely not, for several reasons. And I think they're different now, but one of the organizations did something really good for me. The Wounded Warrior Project sued them and they've sued like 7 other companies because they have something close to their name, or if their logo was similar. And I just hated all that money going to lawsuits. I know the organization I was with, which is, I'll go ahead and tell them because they're a great organization, the Wounded Warrior Family Support Group. And the Wounded Warriors didn't invent that name. That's a military term.
Yes.
But they spent, it was like $2 million between both organizations spent in court, just so now the Wounded Warrior Family Support Group, which has to put, this is not the Wounded Warrior Project, and that's all they got out of it. But they're trying to bully it other ones out. I mean, I'm just giving you facts.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Them, and if you ever want to give them, and many, probably 90% of the organizations do not give to veterans if they're hurt before 9/11. So like the Wounded Warrior Project, when I went to them when I really needed help and some therapy, they said, sorry, you were hurt before 9/11. So, and that is across the board, most of the organizations. So if that's what you want to do, if that's what your heart is to do, like, the guys that were hurt recently, then go ahead. But if not, there's a lot of great organizations that help any veteran, that you don't have to be hurt at a certain place or after a certain time. So it's just something that people should look into.
You know what? I was just going to say that, because I am a firm believer of giving, financial support to organizations that are doing good work. In fact, the month of December, that's what we do on Empowering Chats. We talk about the gift of giving. And it's vitally important. I'm wagging my finger, Jason. You see, I'm wagging.
Right. Yeah, I see it.
Because it's vitally, I think it's so important that you investigate where your money goes once you hit that donate button. And exactly what you just said, when the money is not going to the individuals they are purporting helping, that is not the organization to give to. Like, I will not give to the Salvation Army at all.
Let's say, yeah.
Because
I'll give it a shout out too for Smiles Charity. It's a local organization here in the DFW area, but they renovated my house. They do it for anyone, and they only take almost everyone as a volunteer. I think they're all volunteers. And they renovated my house. They put in a few ramps and hardwood floors, and I have a pool in the back that I did therapy that I now have a hard time getting out of. They have a chairlift for me that,
oh, fabulous,
around, puts me into the pool and stuff. And they usually build houses, and they have a lot of people that are, obviously wanting to get their house free of charge. And they asked me, and a lot of people on the board knew me, which I didn't even know that at the time, but I didn't know that they were on that board. And they asked me if we could build you a house. And I said, that's a very generous offer, but I'm going to have to decline because I love my house, and it was right before my book came out. And I didn't want to maybe make all this money from the book or movie and then them build me a house. I thought it could go to someone that was more needing of it. So then they talked about renovating my house. I said, oh yeah, we could do that. So even my bathroom, I have a full roll-in shower, completely redid my bathroom and stuff. And there's some great organizations out there.
Right. And just investigate, everybody. Investigate and then follow your heart. Follow the wisdom of your heart to what is the best place where your money can serve others in whatever way,
Right. And you know what? To a lot of veterans, I started, I was on the board of a couple of organizations. And so we did a lot of events and stuff. And sometimes I see the same disabled veteran at every event. It's almost like what they're trying, and it's like, what can I get? What can I get? What can I get? And it's almost like I tell them, it's like, are you getting any better? It's almost like, no. They said, what you need to do, find one of these organizations that you really like and volunteer with them and help them and start helping other people. And that's what really healed me a lot, is doing something like that, knowing that what I've gone through is going to be able to help someone else. So it's stop trying to get and start giving. I think it'll make a big difference in your life. And I think for a lot of people, hopefully it has. So,
yes. And I absolutely agree with you. This is a good, excuse me. It's what I suggest to my clients who come to me and they're just overly depressed.
Yeah.
And they're depressed because they're in a victim mode of some sort for whatever trauma and drama in their life. And the idea of giving first is when we receive more.
Yes.
Because we're giving our time, our energy, or our money. And that is, like you just said, it's helping other people. And when we reach out, especially during this time of this whole pandemic and all that stuff, when we reach out to help someone else, we are helping ourselves 100%.
We are. And, like Canine Companions, when the dogs are between 6 weeks and a year and a half, they go to volunteer puppy raisers who house those dogs for a year and a half to socialize them, to get the basic commands and stuff down. Then it goes to the professional training for the last 6 months. And only 50% of the dogs make it through. They're that strict. But those puppy raisers from Canine Companions are my heroes. I mean, to have a dog for a year and a half and then give it up like that, is amazing.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah. And this world relies on volunteers. I think that makes it so much a better place when you have people that volunteer their time and whatever they can give, their time, their money, or whatever they have,
Right.
It's important.
Now, Jason, before we started, you told me about another nonprofit, another thing that you are trying to raise money for. So why don't you talk about that?
I will. So this is going to be a shock because I'm not one of those that post everything off, Facebook and everything. That
Do you?
a lot on it. But I mean, now I guess the cat's almost out of the bag. But my dad, he's been a huge mentor in my life, and he was tough on me. There's no way I could have gotten through this stuff I could have gone through without both my parents. And my dad, who's, he's just turned 82, but when he was 80 years old, or 81 a year ago, he was 250 pounds, 6'3", this big guy with, more hair than me, and in good shape. And he got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And usually when you find it, it's already at stage 4. And unfortunately, there's not a cure for it. But, I almost see that as his body kind of, as he's losing the weight, I almost see like his heart is getting bigger, and he's just still amazing. And he's accepted his faith, and just, it's been so hard on my mom too. But my dad's always been a big lover of Canine Companions because of what they've done for me. In fact, when I got my first dog, it's like, first it's like, well, why do you need a dog for? You can do everything. You don't need it. And then after 2 months and them getting to know the dog, it's like, that's the best thing that's ever happened to you. And because I asked them to come down to my first graduation, they're like, no, we're not. No, we got stuff going on. We're not going to fly down to California. And, but then when I got my second dog, my first dog, Napal, after I got my second dog, I didn't even have to ask my dad. My mom was already scheduled for other girls' trips, but my dad went and actually flew to California just to go to my graduation. That's how important it was to him, and because he knows how important it is to me and what it's done for me. And anyway, so he loves the dogs. He loves Canine Companions, and because mostly what they've done for others and what they've done for me. And so I really wanted to find a way to honor my dad, and I thought the best way is to name a Canine Companions dog after him.
Oh.
So if you so if you raise $25,000, then you get to name a dog. And his name's Mike, which I didn't think was probably the best name. Our last name's Morgan, so we thought of 2 names, Mikey or Morgan, for a name. So I think we got the names picked out, and we just started getting everything in shape. We're actually going to have a fundraiser at someone's house, but we're going to put on Canine Companions, going to put on the website a place where you can donate. And this is really important to me. And especially when my dad's still here, I want him to see this. And I just, like I said, I felt like this is, how can you honor someone who's been so much to me? And this is the best way I could think of. So this is something really important to me and our entire family, to be able to raise this money to do this for my dad.
So if people want to donate, we're going to have all that information in our show notes. You're going to send that to me, right?
I will. Yes, I will. Yes.
Okay. So, and you'd said earlier, it takes $50,000 to train a dog.
Right.
So $25,000 to earn the right to name a dog. So I'm talking to everybody who's listening. And if you're wondering what gifts you want to give at Christmas to your friends and family, this might be a way to give and know that that is doing amazing, healing, good work in the world by giving to Canine Companions, not just so that little Mikey or Morgan comes around, but also so that these dogs are supported and this program is supported because of the amazing work that they do. So I really invite you, as I do every December, to look within your heart and see, if not Canine Companions, at least give some money somewhere where it's going to be doing some good work out in the world.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, and we haven't discussed it yet, but I think over a certain amount, I'm going to give someone, like everyone who donates over a certain amount, like a signed copy of my book, personalize it and send it to them. Buy the book a lot cheaper on Amazon, but it won't be signed, right? So
right, it won't be signed.
This is a gesture of just a thank you.
Yeah. So Jason Morgan, thanks for joining me. Thanks for hanging out this long. And everybody, the book is called A Dog Called Hope. And oh my God, look at that face.
I know. I see that book all the time in my office, and it makes me miss them so much. But yeah, this book's done really well. It's won several awards. It was on Today's Show is one of the summer's best read like last year, and I think it's now just got published in Russia, so it's in 5 countries right now. Yeah, it's done really well. Damian Lewis is a great writer. We spent a lot of time together, doing this book, and he found me. He heard my story and contacted me, and it was just a perfect partnership, and I could be more pleased. So.
Thank you. Well, thanks for being with us today, Jason. And I'm just saying, God bless you, and the journey, this next leg of your journey with your dad and your mom, and I'm just blessing your whole family right now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So that's our show for today. And I'm just going to end with, and so it is, namaste. Well, that wraps up our empowering chat for the day. I hope you enjoyed it and found it inspired you to be more empowered. If you want to find out more about me, go to susanburrell.com, my website, and you can see what we're up to. I am teaching classes again, so there's a calendar of that, and you can register. You can check out my book, Live an Empowered Life, a 30-day journey with the companion inspiration cards, or you can access my guided meditations that go through Insight Timer. We got a bunch of stuff on the website. Check it out. And until then, namaste.